a little back behind.
You're good.
You're good. Okay.
Okay, so it looks like you guys are having a fantastic time. I'm so glad I can see your faces. And I get to talk to you about personal development, which is actually probably one of my very favorite topics of all time. So I didn't get to see. So how many of you do personal development daily? Okay, and tell me what it is you do. Do you read? Do you visualize? Like, what do you do? Shout it out.
Podcast, audiobook, journal,
The daily experience? Okay. What about you, Lois? Exercise? Okay, good. Okay, well, I was thinking and getting ready for this, and I don't know about you guys, but is it like 100 jillion degrees there today? Yeah, it is here too. So like an idiot, I went for a run this morning, which made me think of you guys. And so it actually kind of shifted what I was going to say today. So what I think personal development and really just this business in general is so much like a race or a marathon, right? And I know for those of you that were in the room last year with Katie Wood, she talked a lot about that. And it's funny how the two analogies really go really well together. And it made me think of a story back when, and I can see there's a little baby in the room, but when I had my second kiddo, so Allie Jane, when I had her back in 2008, which was really just a little before I started Rodeo on the Fields, I had been quite a runner. I don't know if you guys know that, but previous from before my son Cole to through Allie's birth, like I ran every single day, a lot of times like 5 miles plus, and I raced a lot. And I think after I got out of the military, like that was kind of my way of pushing myself in different ways. But anyway, I ran all the way up until the day Cole was born. So I was really fit when I had him. And then with Allie, not so much. Everything shifted. Everything felt harder. So I stopped running, I think, probably about month 4 with her. And after she was born and after I kind of felt like I was getting my mojo back, I decided to sign up for a half marathon in San Francisco because we were living in California. And this was going to be my comeback run, right? I was going to get back in shape. I was totally going to get back to where I was. And this race was really special because it was the Nike Women's Half Marathon. So at the end of this race, I don't know if any of you knew about this. This was years ago. Yeah, Shayla's raising her hand. They would have these men in tuxes that would hand you a Tiffany box at the end. So that was like major motivation beyond the like get back from baby body, right? So my mom comes with me. We get up at like 2 a.m. We go into San Francisco. And they make you come so early because they want the race to be over by the time like real people wake up, right? So I think the race started at like 6 a.m. So my sweet mom comes with me in the middle of the dark. We go into San Francisco and I tell her, I'm like, Mom, I know exactly when I'm going to cross the finish line. Just look for me. I can't remember what it was now, but I think it was about an 8-minute mile. And I said, just look for me then. I know my time is well enough. I've done this for years. I'll see you at the finish line right at this time. Now, there are like 50,000 people. There's so many people. But I was like, just stay there. I'll promise I'll finish right around this time. So I start on my race and kick out of the gate pretty quickly. I'm doing good. The first couple miles are kind of downhill. And then we get to about mile 5. And I'm like, oh, man, this is really hard. Like, I'm really breathing hard. But I've done this before. I've done lots of half marathons. Finally, about mile 6, I am like so winded to the point where I'm like, holy crap, is there something wrong with me? And this is when, mile 6 is when the hills start. So any of you that have been to San Francisco, you know what I'm talking about. These are not just like baby hills like you have in Kansas, if you even have any of those. These are like straight up and down, scared me to death kind of like massive hills. And I just remember going up the first one and going, holy shiza, I don't think anybody has kids in there, but I am not going to make it up this hill. Now, history, in all these years of running, all these races I've ever done, I've never walked in a race, never. But I was so winded and so tired at that point, I'm like, you know what, I'm going to have to walk. So I walk up this hill at mile 6, and you guys, it was the worst mental moment I think I've ever had. I was beating myself up inside, like, why didn't you practice more? What the heck were you thinking? Like, you're not in good shape anymore. You can't just come out and run a race. You should have trained harder. Now your mom's never going to find you. You know, the downward spiral that we do as women. So I walk up this hill and then I say, okay, at the top of the hill, I'm going to run down. Okay. And this is just, now the last 7 miles is just up and down, up and down. It's just horrible. So I end up walking up every hill and running down every hill, beating myself up mentally that whole last 7 miles. And then I finally see the end and I get through the finish line. And literally along the way, I'm looking at my watch, and any of you that have ever run before, like, math when you're really tired is very difficult. And I could not for the life of me put together like where I was, because I was so off, I thought, from my path and the timing that I thought I was going to have based on the way I was doing these miles, that I was like, I have no idea how far behind my normal, you know, I'm going to be. So I finally crossed the finish line, literally like trip over the finish line, and there's pictures to show it. And just kind of like saunter in. And the good thing about this marathon was that they gave you a massage right afterwards. So it was really rewarding, even though I was so downtrodden. And sure enough, I look up at the clock and I look over to the other side, and the clock says exactly the time that I told my mom I was going to finish. And it was like the weirdest possible race I've ever run. But it taught me so many things. And I was thinking about it this morning as I was running in 100-degree heat, like feeling like I didn't want to finish. It reminded me of this whole story. And I thought, this is what I want to talk to you about, because I think this is a really good analogy for our business. So what did I learn through that race? First of all, I learned that you never train on a flat road. Okay. Now what that means is you've got to find ways to challenge yourself. And what I didn't do right before that race was I trained in my little town that was completely flat. And I knew that was going to make it a little bit more difficult, but I banked on the fact that I was good enough to be able to pull off those hills. And the reality was I had had a baby. I hadn't been running as much. I needed to have found ways to challenge myself. I could have driven somewhere that has hills. I could have sprinted and tried to make up that resistance. I could have weight trained. There's a whole bunch of things I could have chosen to do to help myself be in better shape for that. So I chose the easy road, which was to jump outside with my neighbor every morning, do the same route we did every morning, and that did not help me in the race. So I want you to think about, how do you prepare for July? July in our world is the big race in Rodan Fields. So up until now, how have you prepared and pushed yourself to perform in July? Have you put things out there that are a little bit harder? Have you challenged yourself for a lead the way goal, or for a higher title, or for even just putting in more work hours than you have in the previous months? And I'm asking you this because I think a lot of you would probably say the answer is no, especially this year. Am I right? Okay, you don't get better when you train on a flat road. That's what I learned through that whole experience. The other thing that goes along with that is you can't have excuses. You can't have excuses and think that that's going to make you better. And that was what I did a whole lot of preparing for that race. The excuse was the kids are, too little. I couldn't get out of the house. The excuse was all these other things. But the reality is I had choices. I could have trained harder. Okay, the second thing is you got to find the right training partner. Now, I don't like to play the blame game, and I'm going to talk about that in a minute. So it's not my training partner's fault, but the person I was running with at the time was not faster than me, and she was not more committed than me. And that's the kind of person I should have been training with to stretch myself to become better at my craft, at my running, right? So I would ask you, are you training with somebody who's pushing you, or are you accountability partners with somebody that's pushing you, or are you having to pull the other person? That's also a choice. There are a lot of people in this company and in this team that would be more than happy to partner up with you. So don't sit in that comfortable space with the people you've always been around, because they're not making you better. And that's just the reality. So choose wisely who it is you run with every single day, okay? Because you'll find that one specific partner can make a big difference in the way that you perform. The third thing I learned was that your mind is equal to or greater than your body in any endurance race. And in our endurance race of Rodan Fields, I would almost argue that your mind is more important than anything else in this business. More important than any language strategy, more important than any BBL that you ever do. What you do up here every single day is the most important. In that race, I was so mad at myself. I mean, I can still remember all the things I was saying to myself that were really self-defeating in that race. oh my gosh, I can't believe you did this. What were you thinking? You suck. All those things were going through my head. How many times have you done that about your business? That doesn't help you at all. The other thing that you have to take into consideration is that I was affecting other people. I was really mad at myself because I was affecting the fact that my mom was sitting there thinking I was going to cross the finish line, and now I thought I was going to be like an hour behind, right? So there's all these things that we beat ourselves up about. And what I've learned now, and after all these years I've learned in this business, is that we are high performance machines in this business. And you have to think of yourself that way. What goes on up here is just like a racetrack driver, just like a professional soccer player, like anybody who has to perform at a high level. What goes on up here, the mental training that you do, is super important. So if you're not doing anything at all, you're not reading books, you're not stretching yourself, listening to podcasts, you're not, doing a little mindfulness, or in my case, this year we had, my husband deployed. So I really took the 15 minutes I could that I walked the dog, and that was my really important brain time in the morning. So if you make excuses about, why you can't, or, where you don't fit it in, it only takes 15 minutes. For me, that means I walk the dog and I visually think about what my business will look like. When I'm helping women everywhere, all over the globe, start businesses, what is that going to look like? What is that going to be able to do to give back to military people like I like to do? Really visualizing, what does that look like? What does my team look like? What will I be doing? How fun will that be? How will it make me feel? Because we remember those things. I still remember the bad feelings of the race, but I can also visually and sort of physically feel the dreams that I've started to really hone every morning when I walk the dog. So use that to your advantage. Also move your body. Even if you're not a big exerciser, you don't have to be a runner. Get up and move your body. If you are at a job every single day, find ways to get up and move your body, because it moves your brain. It gets you in a better mood, right? Find ways to actually move throughout the day to get you to a better place. Also think about what goes in your body. Again, I've never been a big dieter. I've never been a big fad person. But just think about it. I read something one day that said everything that goes in your body either fuels your body or it fuels something, that's growing in your body, something bad. And when you think about that, every time you open your mouth, you'll make more conscious choices about, do I choose this or do I choose this? I'm a high performance machine. Do I choose the carrots or do I choose the cookie? And that kind of stuff affects the way you work. So just kind of simple, did you just have cookies or something? I probably did. Okay, well, you can have some carrots later and make up for it. And then also think about what goes in your ears every single day. What are the voices that you hear? Do you have your grumpy dad who's always talking about how the country's going to heck? Or do you have your really negative neighbor telling you all these things all the time? Really think about who you surround yourself with and how they're feeding your soul. And then don't be sad to have check-ins. Don't be too proud to ask for help. So this last year, I've had quite a few things. In addition to the deployment, I had some really shocking news about my whole birth story, which will probably become another training at some point in time. But that was a really vulnerable point for me right during the same deployment timeframe that could easily have gone downward very quickly. But I chose, as an adult with choices, I chose to nip that in the bud. I called a counselor and I've gone to several sessions with her. And I told her, I need to be working at a high level. This is something that's really nagging me in the back of my head and I need to work through it. And we did several sessions together. And she said, you know what, I think you're to a place now where you don't need to come right now. You can come, every 6 months or something like that. But I was not too proud to say I needed that. And I think we all need to be able to be vulnerable with our teammates, to be vulnerable with each other, to say, hey, I'm not in a good place. I need some help right now. Could you just listen to me? If you can't afford a counselor, that's okay too. Maybe it's your pastor. Maybe it's your best friend. Maybe it's somebody, in your community that's a safe person. But the reality is we need all that to stay at that high level that we all want to achieve. So think about that. What are you doing to grow your mindset? And then what are you doing to be thankful and grateful to those that got you to where you are? You're sitting in this room right now because you had the fortitude and the desire to get better. That's why you're in this retreat right now. And you made things happen. It wasn't easy. You made sure that you're in this room, but there's a whole bunch of people that got you into this room. that you can't forget. And that's something that I try to stay super conscious about. You know, I've had a lot of success now, but I still have to go back and thank those people in the beginning when I wasn't successful and remember that they're the building blocks that got me there. So I would ask you, are you one of those people that's making sure you're thanking those, especially those in this room, that are pouring into you, have poured into you for years? The people that saw it in you before you saw it in yourself, are you saying thank you to them? Because yes, your success will keep growing and you will probably one day eclipse the people that helped you get there, but never forget that they were important to you on the journey to get there. So I remember that day thanking my mom for coming out at 2 in the morning and thanking for my husband for taking a brand newborn, you know, when I was out running all day long. And all those things matter, right? Because in this journey, in this race, you need all those people to be able to cross the finish line. And then lastly, learn from the experiences that don't go your way. I know this year has been more challenging than the previous years. And I know that it's not always gone the way that it did in the previous years. But guess what? In that race, when I walked up those hills, I felt like that was failure. But in the end, I was still able to run down the hills and get across the finish line in a decent amount of time. And I learned something really important, that there was a new way to do the race that I had always done one way, running the whole time. There's a whole strategy where you can run walk. And I never even knew it until I accidentally did it. And meanwhile, had this horrible experience thinking I was a loser, and I finished at the same time. So you need to come to terms that in Rodan & Fields, the thing that got us to where we are today, you might have been running the previous years. You might have been racing. You might have been having so much success in the previous years. So we just hit some hills. We're in the hilly stage now. We might have to run walk a little bit. You might go slower in certain parts of times, but you also are going to learn some really important lessons by slowing down and realizing there's another way to skin the cat in this business, right? So that's where you as leaders, especially here in Kansas, need to be open to the fact that there are a lot of things swirling around you that you can be learning from right now. So you have to adapt. And now I realize that strength and agility are more my thing. Like I don't run like I used to, and my knees really just wouldn't hold out anymore. But I know that being strong and being agile are important to me now. So now I do a boot camp and I do a yoga class. And I'm perfectly okay with that, realizing that my body's not what it was at 22 or 25, right? So are you adapting to where we are now? Or are you just lamenting what we had before and wishing it was still the same? Are you the person that still wishes you were the popular girl in high school or something like that, right? You have to adapt. You're a mom now. You're, a business owner. You're in a different place. So don't wish for what once was. Start thinking about how can I make now even better? And how can I bring my team along with me? I think this is now in Rodan & Fields a time for strength and agility. I think the people that build strong organizations and that are agile and don't freak out, those are the ones that are going to lead the next generation. Those that look to, to panic or to blame or to wish for and see everything in a negative light are not going to survive this round. And there's going to be a whole new set of leaders. And I'm perfectly okay with that. But I want this team who is so gritty, as we say, gritty is the new pretty. I want you to be the leaders of the next wave of Rodan & Fields. And here's a few things I do know. I know there's going to be ups and there's going to be downs in this business, and this is not the first time we will see them. I think we got very lucky with a long string of ups, like really good performance. But there are going to be a lot more of these than you realize, because every entrepreneur on the face of the planet knows that's how entrepreneurship works. There's never a time where things only go up. And there's going to be times where you need to walk, where you're out of breath and you need to take a breather. And that's where the people on the sidelines are going to be so important to you. And that's the people in the room with you. The voices that you're connecting with today, the people that are cheering you on, the people that believe in you, they know how strong you are. That's where those voices are going to become very, very important. But what I think is really important is that you recognize that no matter how fast you're going in the race, that you have the best jersey on your back with the best company you could have possibly found with Rodan & Fields. You have an able body and an able mind that when it's trained properly can perform like nobody's business. And you guys all know that because you've done that. And you have the coolest teammates sitting right there at your tables who are going to be cheering you on no matter what and no matter when in life, right? what I love about your group so much is that it's not just Rodan Fields. You guys have become friends. You cheer each other on in every walk of life now. This is a people thing, not just a business thing. And it's not so much the time that you cross the finish line, but that you are able to look around while you're doing it and enjoy the journey of getting there. Okay? So I just want to reassure you that you are in the right place. This is where, you know, things are going to happen. We know we're going into Asia just shortly. We know lots of things are coming. We know that this ship is turning, but it's turning. So you guys just need to dig in, train harder than ever, because when the good times come, you're going to be the fastest one down the hill, and I'm going to be the biggest cheerleader on the sidelines cheering for you. So hopefully I stayed within your time, Steph.
Yes, you were
Thanks,
awesome.
you guys.
Hello. Do you guys have any questions for Jen? Does anyone have any questions?
All right, I've got one.
Okay.
I've been wondering, like, at what point to ask this, but it got brought up with my upline, and just like yesterday, she's kind of sharing some stuff with us. So we're starting to see the ads on Groupon. We're starting to see like these random ads that come in through weird places through Instagram and Facebook. And personally, I'm just wondering how that affects the integrity of our consultantship. And if there are legitimate, I mean, we know it's not legitimate, but when people can see that, they filter that all the time, if they are going to those places and they are trying to buy and they're getting screwed or whatever, what that means for all of us.
Jen, did you have a question?
Yeah, I heard it. Yep. That's a really good question. And it's kind of interesting. I'm glad you asked me, because I was on the compliance committee probably 3 years ago now at Rodan Fields. And as much as you didn't realize that these were, you know, popping up in different places all the time, like Groupon and Living Social and that kind of stuff, it's been happening consistently throughout time. You probably just noticed it now. But there is a team at Rodan Fields in the legal office that 100% is devoted to trying to kill these things as they pop up. The good and bad of the internet is that there's nobody that controls or polices the internet, right? So there's nothing we can do other than remind our customers that the products that you're getting from some of these third-party sites, there's no way we can guarantee what they are. So they could be old, they could be moldy, they could be expired, or they could be fake. We don't even know what they are. So the only thing we can remind them is, if you want safe, effective products with a guarantee, you have to buy it through a consultant. So really that helps us in some way, because we can't claim that we had anything to do with a knockoff, just like Gucci or, you know, Louis Vuitton can't either. You just have to remind them, if you want the good stuff, you got to come to the consultant, which actually should help drive traffic to you more than away from you. But I will assure you, there is a lot of people devoted to really taking down those sites, and they do their very best. So as soon as they hear about one, we often see it get reported straight to corporate, and then they go after the people. So it's not like it's just nobody's watching. They're all over it. It's just that it's hard to kill them all at the same time, because they pop up, you know, at any random given time. Does that help?
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah. What else?
Any other questions? Okay. Jen, thank you so much.
Yeah, you guys have a good afternoon. You're troopers.